Okay, so I've got my jars here sanitizing and ready to go for when my jam is ready to put into the jars. Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be making that strawberry jam. If you saw my previous two videos, one I got a flat of strawberries from my local farm stand, and the other one I stored or kind of put up the strawberries in some vacuum seal bags and put them in the freezer, and then I left out 2 batches of strawberries that I can make strawberry jam out of, and that's what I'm making today. The recipe I'm going to be using comes right out of this Pomona's Universal Packed-In box. That's what I have to use, even though I have a larger bulk size of the Pomona's Packed-In. I figured since I was making so much jam, I would just buy a bulk of it, and it lasts pretty much indefinitely if you store it correctly. And it's the same thing that's in here, just in a bigger form. So I'm using the instructions and everything that comes right out of here for strawberry jam, and it's right here. It calls for 4 cups of mashed fruit. That's what I have in here. Well, it's not mashed yet, but I will mash it. It doesn't call for any lemon juice, so I don't have that out here. I'm using sugar today. I have my Packed-In and I have my calcium water. So you saw the Packed-In. This is the calcium water that I mixed up. And this is my sugar. And I'm just going to use a potato masher to mash it up. That's what I'm going to use to mash up the fruit. And that's what I'm going to do first. I kind of like my jam on the smoother side, but this one I'm going to make chunky and leave it in like a lot of the fruit kind of whole. Not really whole, but like not really mashed down. So that's why I'm using a potato masher than the little whisk that I use, which is the hand mixer that I used to use to puree it up. So I'm just going to go ahead and mash these up, make sure I have 4 cups of fruit. So this was quite easy and simple. I am, as you can see, I'm leaving a lot of big chunks in it because I want it kind of on the chunky side. These are super ripe strawberries, so they were very easy to mash with this potato masher. And that's all I want to do with these right now. So I took my measurement. I know you can see that, but that is right at 4, right there. That is 4 cups. So I am ready to put this in the pot. So into my heavy bottom pot, I am putting my strawberries, and you can mash it up if you don't think it's quite mashed enough. You can mash it up even more once it's in here. I just like to do it in there because it's a more confined space, and I get to mash it up even in the measuring container. So if you want to go ahead and mash it up while it's in the pot, go right ahead. You could even break it up with whatever spoon you're using to mix the jam. So now I'm going to measure out my Packed-In and put it into my sweetener, which in this case is sugar. And for this particular one, I need 2 teaspoons of Packed-In. Okay, so I am putting in my Packed-In. I am using a half of a teaspoon, so I have to put 4 in. As you can see, half of a teaspoon. So don't think I'm putting more or doing a double batch. It was just half of a teaspoon. I couldn't find my other teaspoon, and I have to use a teaspoon for the calcium water, so I didn't want to mix the two. So I am mixing this in thoroughly. Mix it right in. Okay, so I have my fruit in here, and I am putting in my calcium water. Sorry, I was nearly saying Packed-In. No, it's calcium water. Doesn't that look like tomatoes? It really does. Okay, it's not tomatoes, I assure you. It's strawberries, and it smells so ripe and delicious. Yeah, I'm putting in my calcium water. And the recipe calls for 2 teaspoons. That's 1. And that is 2. Now I'm going to get that all mixed up. Okay, so I've got my calcium water mixed in, and I'm just making sure I mix it in thoroughly. It says mixed in thoroughly all the way through. I'm going to bring this to a full boil. I have it on medium heat. And once I bring it to a full boil, I'm going to add in my sweetener, which in this case is sugar. I'm going to bring it back to a full boil. Make sure I stir vigorously and all that sugar gets dissolved. And I'm going to hold it there for a minute or 2 while stirring in that sugar. See a couple of big chunks of strawberries that I want to get kind of broken up a little bit more. And once my sugar has dissolved in and I brought it back to a full boil, and I've held it there for a minute or two, I'm going to turn it off and take it off the heat. And then I'm just going to start ladling it into the jars. And then we're going to process it in a water bath canner, or in my case, I'm just using a stock pot that I'm using as a canner. And we're going to process it at a full rolling boil for 10 minutes. Yep, 10 minutes. So I'm going to let this come to a boil, and I'll bring you back once it's at a boil. Okay, my fruit has come to a full boil. As you can see, it's on a full boil. Just turned it down a little bit. It's starting to pop all over the place. And I'm going to add in my sugar. That was 2 cups of sugar. Half the amount of the regular recipe, because I am using the Pullman Loaf Pan, which allows you to do a little less sugar. I'm going to stir this in. I'm going to bring it back to a boil. And once I bring it back to that boil, I'm going to stir vigorously so nothing sticks, nothing burns, for 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, so it's come back to a boil. I've started my timer, and I'm going to mix it constantly, vigorously, for the whole time I'm timing it. And I was pretty well mixing it the entire time until it came back to a boil anyway. As you can see, it's boiling quite a bit. I'm just trying to stop it from popping. I did turn it down a little bit, so it's on sort of like a medium heat. Turn it down a little bit more, because you do not want this pop on you. I've had that happen. I had it up too high, and it does burn. It's like molten sugar. The fruit turns into sugar, and the sugar is sugar. So I'm going to continue. Whoops. Getting a little foggy there. Continue stirring this down. Okay, so my timer just went off. I'm going to turn off the heat and take it off. Okay, so now I've got it off the heat, and it's actually starting to thicken up quite fast. So I'm going to get this going. It's probably been off the heat probably like 2 or 3 minutes, not very long at all. You can already see it's starting to thicken up. I've got my jars right here. I'm going to get them started to fill up. So I'm getting my jars filled up, and you want to pay attention to the correct head spacing. In this case, for jam, it's 1/4 inch. I'm going to get the rest all filled up. And this recipe will make, depending on what size jars you're using, I'm using 1/2 pints. So this should technically make 5. 4 or 5 it says. With me, I've done this before, so if I measured everything correctly, it should make 5. So now the wiping of the rims, I am using a little bit of vinegar with some paper towels, and I am using my ForJars canning lids. If you need a discount code, it'll be in the description box below for 10% off your order. And I'm going to make sure I am wiping these rims really well, because it's sticky and it can impede the seal on these jars. Okay, so I got exactly 5 jars out of there. That's what's left of my pot. And I am going to wipe them with a paper towel that I dipped in my vinegar. And let's see if I can do this without making too much of a mess. All right, I am going to wipe these at least 3 times, making sure I turn the paper towel to a different area every single time. So you've seen me do this before. But putting this on my shelf is going to be so delicious. And I have my lids here and some warm water and my vinegar. Okay, so I've got my rims all nicely cleaned. I'm going to put my lids on, my ForJars canning lids. Get them on, and then I'm going to get my rings on and get them into a water bath canner for 10 minutes on a rapid boil. Okay. Okay, so get my last ring on, and I am doing it fingertip tight. Once it starts doing that, I stop, and I'm gonna get them into my water bath counter. These jars in here are just placeholders because the pot is too big for the 4 jars. No, 5 jars, sorry. And that just makes sure nothing falls over or rattles or anything like that, so it doesn't break. So that's why I leave those 2 jars in there, and they do have water in them, so they will not break or anything like that. Okay, so into the pot they go. Trying to do this while looking through the camera. Make sure you see what I'm looking at. And I want this one in the middle. I get it in the middle. There it goes. So get all my jars in, and it needs to be topped off just a little bit. This is just tall enough to where it's an inch over, and I have a kettle full of hot water here, just an inch over the actual jars, which is what you should have. And I'm going to bring it up to a rolling boil. Once it gets there, I'm going to time it for 10 minutes, and I'll bring you back when it's finished. Okay, so it's come up to a rolling, I can't with my words today. Okay, so it's come up to a rolling boil, and I'm going to put my timer on for 10 minutes and let it do its thing. So here they are out of the water bath canner. I don't pour the water off, it will evaporate. And I'm going to leave them here on the counter for about 18 to 24 hours, and then I'll wash them up and label them and put them into my cold room pantry. And there we go. Strawberry jam. Yum. I will definitely be enjoying this. You can even put this on ice cream. Have you tried this on ice cream? You really should try this on ice cream. Now, I like vanilla ice cream, and I tried it on vanilla ice cream, and it was delicious, not just for toast or oatmeal or, say, a crisp, but try it on some ice cream. Yep, that works too. Oh, and I meant to show you the water, but I already poured it into my sink so I could wash out my dirty dishes. And it was absolutely clear. There was no leakage or siphoning or anything like that. It was perfectly clean. I was trying to catch a ping for you, but I think I missed them. They're so quiet. They're definitely not as loud as the bowl ones, but they do ping. And as you can see, that water is pretty much evaporated off of most of them. And it will continue to evaporate with the heat. You don't need to tip it over to the side to get it off. You do not need to wipe it. It will take care of itself. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and click that notification bell to be notified when I upload videos. God bless, and remember, stay safe and keep prepping.